Chapter 743. Firebird King's graveyard was extremely vast, and the open space was only the center. There was still half a way to reach White Sheep King's graveyard. The open space at the center was already hot enough, and the fiery chi would condense into various firebirds from time to time to attack outsiders. However, as they passed through the open space, Yichen discovered that the temperature was still rising from 1,000 degrees to 2,000 degrees. The previous temperature could already melt ordinary steel. The temperature here can more or less melt low-grade metals. Metals also had grades. Low-grade metals could be used to forge low-grade artifacts and were extremely hard. Metals below low-grade could only be used to forge ordinary weapons. Murong Qingqing said, "There's lava ahead, and there's a passage leading down." No wonder. Everything on True Spirit Continent couldn't be compared to the things of Yi Chen's world. For example, the titanium alloy of Yi Chen's world was only an ordinary precious metal in this world, not even comparable to low-grade metals. Moreover, the lava of the two places couldn't be compared either. The temperature of True Spirit Continent's lava could easily reach several thousand degrees, and the temperature would also vary according to the environment. In a short while, the three arrived at the periphery of the lava. This place was the same as the empty space in the center of the cemetery. It was also a large empty space, but this empty space was filled with magma and red jade-like stones. In the center of the magma, there was a staircase leading downwards. The temperature there was much higher than the surrounding temperature. It seemed that the lower one went, the higher the temperature. "Come, let's go in." Yi Chen disregarded the high temperature and took a step forward, arriving at the top of the stairs. Swish, swish. Murong Qingqing and Sun Tianlang followed behind. Raising his protective Zhenyuan, Yi Chen faintly sucked in a breath of air. His feet landed on the stairs, and he walked down. Creak creak. Although the stairs didn't conduct heat, the surface temperature was still quite high. When the protective Zhenyuan came in contact with it, it emitted a faint burning sound and smoke. Soon, the three arrived at the bottom of the stairs. Yi Chen and the other two had just gotten down when they heard someone calling out to them. They turned their heads and saw Qing Lu and Yan Fengfeng. Not far away from them, there were even more people who were standing in a circle. In the middle was a 100-meter radius lava lake. The color of the lava was not the normal red or yellow, but blood red. It was extremely pure, without any impurities. In the center of the magma lake, there was a circle of orange-yellow light coming from the bottom. An incomparably majestic energy wave swept out in all directions, causing people to hold their breaths. "Senior." Yi Chen and the other two walked over. Qing Lu smiled, "As long as you guys are fine." "What's the situation here?" Yi Chen asked. Yan Fengfeng pointed at an orange-yellow halo at the bottom of the lake and said, "There is a half-step extreme grade Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit at the bottom of the lake." Sky Demon Fire Spirit fruit? This was the first time Yi Chen had heard of it. What? Sky Demon Fire Spirit fruit? Sun Tianlang cried out in shock. Yi Chen looked at Sun Tianlang. "Brother Sun, you know about the Sky Demon Fire Spirit fruit?" Sun Tianlang said, "The Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit above 10,000 years old is a top-grade spirit fruit. Consuming one will allow a monarch's spirit body to rise by one level. Normally, both monarchs and monarchs have 5th-grade spirit bodies. Consuming a Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit will allow them to rise to the 6th grade. The higher the cultivation, the greater the increase. 8,000 years ago, there was a body-tempering monarch whose spirit body had reached the 6th grade. Coincidentally, he found a 50,000-year-old Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit, which allowed his spirit body to rise to the 8th grade. He instantly became an undefeatable monarch. Even monarchs were no match for him. A 50,000 years old Sky Demon Fire Spirit fruit can increase one's spirit body by 2 ranks, and from rank 6 to rank 8. Yi Chen was quite shocked. The higher one's spirit body was, the harder it would be to increase. Rank 5 spirit body was the standard of life and death kings. Even titled monarchs could only reach rank 5 spirit body. If it was a king who focused on body refining, they could reach rank 6. The gap between rank 6 and rank 5 was huge, not to mention rank 8 and rank 5. It was like heaven and earth, and it would be easy for a king to sweep the whole world. Sun Tianlang continued, of course, a sky demon fire spirit fruit that has matured for 10,000 years and above is a rare occurrence. One that has matured for 50,000 years and above has only appeared once in history. After all, the sky demon fire spirit fruit is not an ordinary spirit herb that can easily reach 10,000 years and above. Qing Lu nodded. This sky demon fire spirit fruit is not more than 5,000 years old. It is impossible for it to increase our spirit body by 1 rank, but half a rank should not be a problem. If it is at the peak of rank 4, then reaching rank 5 is almost certain. Rank 5 spirit body was the king's spirit body. Most of the people here have rank 4 spirit body. I'm afraid this sky demon fire spirit fruit will make everyone go crazy. Yi Qin used his soul eye and saw that there was a 1-meter tall purple-red tree under the lava. On top of the tree, there was a purple fruit, and there was a red light flashing on the surface of the fruit from time to time. Qing Lu said, although there are a lot of people here, only a few have the chance to get the fruit, such as Punishment King, Ice Spear King, Mochi Tiger, Forest King, and Armored King. Wait until the fruit ripens, I will go down alone. You guys stay up here. She still did not know that Yi Chen's power had reached a horrifying level. Even Windstorm King and Iron Hand King had died in his hands. But she could not be blamed for not having a good eyesight. Who would know that Yi Chen had only broken through a small realm, and his power had increased by several folds? Senior, I will go down with you later. Yi Chen was a bit tempted by the sky demon fire spirit fruit. Who would not want to strengthen their spirit body? You will go down with me? Qing Lu's brows creased as she looked at Yi Chen. Murong Qingqing explained in place of Yi Chen, Senior, Yi Chen has already broken through to late Sea of Soul Realm. His strength is very powerful. She did not say that Yi Chen had killed Windstorm King and Iron Hand King, as it was not the right time yet. Right? Yi Chen's strength will certainly surprise you. Sun Tianlong's tone was certain. Oh, in that case, you must be extremely careful. Qing Lu was still not convinced. However, Yi Chen's strength was indeed not weak before. Now that his cultivation base had reached late Sea of Soul Realm, his improvement should not be small. Right, Senior? This sky demon fire spirit fruit's effect is so powerful. The fire spirit tree should be able to be cultivated, right? There was only one sky demon fire spirit fruit. If he could obtain the tree, he would be able to grow more sky demon fire spirit fruits in the future. Qing Lu smiled bitterly. It would be great if that was the case. The sky demon fire spirit tree is very strange. After producing a sky demon fire spirit fruit, it will die. Some trees will bear fruit in 1,000 years, some in 5,000 years, and some in 10,000 years. There is no clear pattern, and one can only rely on luck. Therefore, the sky demon fire spirit fruit is the peak among the same grade spirit fruits. I see. Yi Chen still planned to obtain the sky demon fire spirit tree. This kind of spirit plant could only be found by luck. Buzz. Suddenly, ripples appeared in the center of the lava lake, spreading toward the edge. At the same time, an extremely hot chi current spread out. So hot. The experts surrounding the magma lake retreated one after another, leaving only a few of the most powerful people behind. The temperature of this chi current is probably above 5,000 degrees. The temperature was too high, and Yi Chen could no longer estimate it. After all, he did not have a temperature measuring device. He could only make a rough estimate based on his own feelings. Buzz. Buzz. The waves in the magma lake became more and more numerous. In the end, huge bubbles emerged on the surface of the magma lake one after another. These bubbles were pure gold in color. After leaving the magma lake, they suddenly burst, releasing an even hotter chi flow. Even Yi Chen's body was covered in sweat. Although he was powerful, his cultivation base was only at late Sea of Soul Realm, which couldn't compare to half-step kings. The sky demon fire spirit fruit has matured. Qing Lu's eyes brightened. Obviously, the others had also guessed that the fruit had matured as well. Otherwise, there would not be such a weird phenomenon. All of a sudden, everyone around the lava lake started to move, and the atmosphere was extremely tense. But strangely, no one made the first move. They all seemed to be worried. Fortune comes from danger. Let's do it. A half-step king warrior flashed his body and jumped toward the lava lake. Seeing that, the people around him hesitated a bit, but did not stop him. Qin Lu said to Yichen, "The lava lake is extremely dangerous. The first one to go down will have to bear the most danger. If he is not careful, he will be killed. Let's wait." Yeah. Yichen nodded. The first one to go down was indeed the most dangerous. Even if he could get the fruit, he would be the target of everyone else. Perhaps this half-step king warrior thought that he was quite powerful and wanted to give it a try. If he succeeded, his spirit body would reach rank 5 soon. Plop. Lava splashed everywhere as this half-step king warrior jumped into the lava lake. Yichen used his soul eye and observed carefully. At the bottom of the lake, apart from the boiling magma, there were also countless scorching chi currents. These surging chi currents formed bubbles on the surface. The half-step king unceasingly evaded the chi currents, gradually approaching the fruit. When he was less than 50 meters away from the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit tree, a golden stream of air suddenly shot up and swept past. A shocking scene occurred. The half-step king didn't even have the time to let out a scream before his entire body was burned into ashes by the golden chi flow. Only his semi-extreme grade artifact remained, sinking into the depths of the lava lake. This gold chi flow is very scary. Yi Chen's pupils shrunk. Outside, he could not feel the temperature of the gold chi flow, but if a half-step king warrior could not handle it, it was obvious that the temperature was horrifying. With the first one dead, the rest of the people started to hesitate even more. They looked at each other, knowing that they would not give up on the fruit. But before that, they had to figure out the danger under the lava lake first. Therefore, they all hoped that someone else would go down first. Of course, the condition was that the one who went down was not too powerful. If he was too powerful, then once he got the fruit, there would be no hope left for them. Chapter 744. The Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit is indeed ripe. I wonder who will be the second to go down. Yichen noticed that the Sky Demon Fire Spirit fruit at the bottom of the lava lake had turned from purple to orange. Its entire body was emitting an orange glow. The purplish-red tree and the orange fruit were exceptionally eye-catching. If Yichen were a half-step king, he would definitely be the second one to go down. However, his cultivation base was only at late sea of Soul Realm, and his protective Jinyuan was not that powerful. Moreover, he couldn't immediately expose his bronze armor. Therefore, going down recklessly would put his life in danger. Only after understanding the situation of the magma lake would he make his move. Since everyone is so cautious, I'll go first. I hope you won't regret it. The great elder of the Void Gate, the Armored King, burst into laughter. His silhouette flickered and turned into a streak of yellow light, shooting towards the magma lake. Magma splashed up from the surface of the magma lake as the Armored King dived in. It's the Armored King. Everyone's expression changed. Armored King was very powerful, at most a bit weaker than Punishment King. Moreover, Armored King's defense was very high. Even one of the strongest half-step kings, Thunder Spirit King, couldn't compare. Although that golden chi flow could burn a half-step king into ashes, it might not be able to do anything to Armored King. Everyone was waiting. Once they confirmed that the Armored King could resist the golden chi flow, they would go down and fight for the Sky Demon Fire Spirit fruit. The density of the magma was very high, and there were many undercurrents, causing the Armored King's diving speed to be very slow. Apart from this, the Armored King did not dare to go too fast. He was not sure if he could resist the golden currents. If necessary, he would have to dodge. When the Armored King was only 50 to 60 meters away from the Sky Demon Fire Spirit fruit, a golden stream appeared. In a flash, it arrived in front of the Armored King. So fast! The Armored King was startled, and an earthen yellow radiance surged from his body, condensing into a 10-meter-tall black mountain. When the golden chi came into contact with it, a blinding light burst out, and the black mountain rapidly shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye, like melted cheese. Seizing this opportunity, the Armored King twisted his body and dodged the golden airflow, continuing to dive deeper. He blocked it. Everyone was overjoyed, but then they were alarmed. The armored monarch could resist the golden chi flow for a short period of time. They absolutely could not allow him to snatch the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit. Let's go! Qing Lu yelled with a low voice, her tone decisive. Whoosh, whoosh. Yi Chen and Qing Lu almost flew out at the same time. Within a second, they arrived above the lava lake, flashed and jumped down. Whoosh, whoosh. Swoosh. Not only Yi Chen and Qing Lu, the others had also made their move. Others like Punish King, Guang Lin King, Mochi Tiger, Ice Spear King, and dozens of other Demi-King warriors all jumped into the lava lake, their speed exploding to the extreme. At this moment, it was all about speed. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 people plunged into the magma lake at the same time and dived into the bottom of the magma lake. The closer he got to the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit, the more the golden air currents appeared. At this time, the armored king's speed wasn't even 1,000th of his usual speed. He simply didn't dare to face so many golden air currents. He could only swim like a fish, blocking the golden air currents for a moment, taking the opportunity to dodge, and then continuing to approach, seeing that the armored king was less than 20 meters away from the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit. Punishment King, who was the strongest among them, decisively made his move. His first move was the punishment kilt that had almost killed Yi Chen and the rest. Numerous chains extended out, wrapping around the Armored King's limbs. Armored King's strength was only slightly weaker than Punishment King. A black mountain peak condensed outside his body once again. The chains clashed with it, letting out a metal clashing sound. However, the next blade light sent the Armored King flying to the side, colliding with a golden chi flow. The black mountain peak rapidly shrunk as Armored King hurriedly escaped from the range of the golden chi flow. Punishment King, you dare to attack me? Armored King roared. Why wouldn't I dare? Punishment King snorted. With Punishment King taking the lead, the others became bolder. Once Armored King approached the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit, they would immediately attack. This made Armored King extremely annoyed, but helpless. Soon, everyone arrived in the vicinity of the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit. Dozens of people dodged the sudden golden chi flow while guarding against other people's sneak attacks. Although the golden chi flow's temperature was high, as long as one didn't get too close to the fruit, the frequency of its appearance wouldn't be high. Moreover, those who came down were all relatively powerful half-step kings. Even if they were burned by the golden chi flow, they would be able to dodge at the crucial moment. Hee, there's only one Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit, but there are dozens of us here. I'm afraid it won't be easy to divide it. Punishment King's gaze swept around and chuckled. Ice Spear King said with a cold tone, there are too many people. It's better if fewer go. After saying these words, he looked at a few weaker half-step kings with ill intentions, as well as the only one who wasn't a half-step king, Yi Chen. Be careful later. There might be a fight. Qing Lu transmitted her Zhenyuan to Yi Chen. Senior, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Yi Chen could sense that the whole lava lake was enveloped in a layer of restriction, making it impossible to concentrate energy, greatly reducing the offensive power. Moreover, the density of the lava lake was also very high. At least half of the offensive power would be wasted on the transmission. In this way, the strength everyone could display at the bottom of the lava lake wouldn't be enough to break through the defense. The only thing they had to be wary of was the golden chi flow. Once they were hit, they wouldn't be able to control their body, and if they were careless and bumped into the golden chi flow, it wouldn't bode well for them. Among the crowd, the first to suffer was a skinny half-step king. He was the first to suffer Forest King's attack. His body tilted and was about to bump into a golden chi flow. At the crucial moment, he twisted his body and forcefully dodged. However, it was not only Forest King who was attacking him, but Mochi who as well. This person's eyes were filled with fear as he was engulfed by the golden chi flow and turned into ashes. Go. Seeing this, two half-step kings felt that their strength wasn't enough and rushed up. They didn't want to lose their lives here. They didn't fear death, but there were too many experts down there. They couldn't fight over the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit. With one dead and two gone, there were still 10 people down there. Kid, this is not a place for you to stay. Ice Spear King suddenly attacked Yi Chen with his spear, which was unexpected. This guy. Among the crowd, Yi Chen's defense was the lowest. Attacking other half-step kings wouldn't be able to break through their defenses. However, attacking Yi Chen would still be able to break through. Moreover, even if it didn't, Yi Chen would lose control of his body and crash into the golden chi flow. Get lost. Yi Chen waved his Thunder Disaster Sword and a dark golden ripple greeted the incoming attack. Rumble. Even with the protection of the restriction, the magma lake exploded and the magma surged. What? Ice Spear King had only used 50 to 60% of his power in this attack. He thought that 50 to 60% would be enough to send Yi Chen flying. However, he was wrong. The one who was sent flying was himself. Under his carelessness, he simply couldn't react in time. What was even more unfortunate was that behind the Ice Spear King, 2 golden streams of air rushed up and brushed past the Ice Spear King's body. Ice Spear King's body lit up. First, a bright light shot out from his 7 orifices. Then, his body collapsed and fused with the magma. The long spear in his hand and the armor on his body gradually sunk down. Yi Chen was stunned. He was only counterattacking just now and had never thought of killing Ice Spear King. In his opinion, Ice Spear King should be able to resist. However, he didn't expect that Ice Spear King would only use 50 to 60% of his power. Caught off guard, he died. Sigh, I've offended another ice pavilion. Yi Chen smiled bitterly. Kid, you're courting death. Everyone was shocked by Yi Chen's strength. Even if Ice Spear King was careless, he was still not a normal half-step king. Who would have thought that under one move, it would be him who died? As soon as Ice Spear King died, Forest King and Machi's eyes flickered with an ominous light as they each launched an attack at Yi Chen. You dare! Qing Lu held the sky hammer in her hand and attacked at the two. What happened next made everyone speechless. Forest King and Machi Tiger did not expect Qing Lu to have a pseudo-extreme rank weapon. They immediately followed Ice Spear King's footsteps and were blown away by the hammer power before being burned into ashes by the golden chi flow. Damn, it's a pseudo-extreme rank weapon. Punishment King's eyebrow twitched. Originally, there were 10 people, but now, 3 had died, leaving only 7. Damn it. We can't stay here at all. Let's go. The continuous deaths had chilled the others' hearts. They would rather fight outside of the magma lake than under it. With a little bit of carelessness, they would be burned into ashes by the golden chi flow. Among everyone, only Armored King could resist the golden chi flow for a short period of time. In the end, 4 people were left at the bottom of the magma lake. They were Qing Lu, Yi Chen, Armored King, and Punishment King. The others were either dead or had escaped. Mysterious King, I did not expect you to have a pseudo-extreme rank weapon. But you have killed Forest King and Machi Tiger. Lin family and Sky Tiger race will not let you go. Punishment King was not afraid of Qing Lu. He was a top half-step king warrior. Even if Qing Lu had a pseudo-extreme rank weapon, it would still be impossible for her to beat him. Qing Lu said, life and death are decided by fate. If you do not want to die, you should just hide at home. Although it would be troublesome to offend Lin family and Sky Tiger race, he could not care about that right now. He could only blame them for being careless. Punishment King laughed, you are Xuanho's master. Lin family and Sky Tiger race might not be able to do anything to you. But for this brat, he might not be able to make it out alive. The one from the Ice Pavilion is the most protective. He still did not know that Yi Chen had not only offended the Ice Pavilion, but also the Air Emperor, the Shadow Martial School, and the Gu family. Therefore, for Yi Chen, there were too many troubles. One more or one less did not matter anymore. He would just have to take it one step at a time. Dying here is their fate. If the king warriors behind them are ready to attack, my disciple Qing Xian and Dragon King will not just watch. As Xianho and Yan Qingshuan's master, how could Qing Lu not know Xuanho's plan? She knew that Qing Xian and Dragon King had made up their minds to protect Yi Chen. Whoever dared to touch Yi Chen would be touching them as well. Dragon King? I wonder if he is still alive or not. Armored King sneered. Chapter 745. The Dragon King's closed-door training was something everyone knew. If the Dragon King was close to the end of his life, then everyone would give him face. After all, no one knew how powerful he really was. They only knew that he was the oldest human king warrior, over 1,000 years old. It was also said that in terms of cultivation, even titled king warriors would not be able to compete with him. Such a powerful Dragon King would naturally be feared by everyone. Unfortunately, this was the second time the Dragon King had been in closed-door training. You two, in order to avoid hurting the relationship, why don't you guys leave the lava lake first? Yichen put the Ice Spear King thing to the back of his head and smiled. Punishment King's expression turned cold. Brat, are you joking? Don't think that just because you killed the Ice Spear King, you have the right to talk in front of us. Armored King looked at Yichen coldly. Ice Spear King's death couldn't be attributed to Yichen's strength surpassing Ice Spear King's. It was mainly due to Ice Spear King's own carelessness. This was the magma lake, and if he couldn't control his own body, he would have died. If he were outside, even if Ice Spear King was careless, he wouldn't have died a miserable death. Yichen said, "If I'm careless and you die miserably here, I'm afraid that the Void Emperor and Prison King behind you won't let me off. You retreat and preserve your lives, while we obtain the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit. Isn't that a win-win situation? You really dare to say it out loud." Punishment King squinted his eyes, his killing intent rising. "Punishment King, your opponent is me." Qing Lu looked at Yichen strangely. Yichen was not the kind of person to talk big. Could it be that his power had really improved to such a shocking level? "Qing Lu Sr., leave him to me. You go take on the Armored King." With the Sky Hammer, Qing Lu might be able to suppress Punishment King for a short period of time. But once she used up too much Zhen Yuan, she would be in danger. And Yichen would rather face Punishment King. His defense was too high, and Yichen might not be able to do anything to him. "Can you do it?" Qing Lu obviously did not want to fight with Punishment King, but she was more worried about Yichen. It's too late. Punishment King did not have the leisure to watch the other side fight. True Yuan surged inside his body as he quickly formed a seal with both hands. In an instant, 5 chains wrapped around Yichen's limbs and neck at lightning speed. Punishment Martial Art? Punishment. Among the peak half-step kings of True Spirit Continent, Punishment King was certainly the most famous. His punishing martial skills were too strange. Each of his moves and styles seemed to be carrying out torture, and the slightest carelessness could lead to decapitation. Therefore, some peak half-step kings whose strength was not weaker than Punishment King didn't dare to provoke him, giving him some face. Voila! The speed at which the 5 chains descended was too fast. Even at the bottom of the magma lake, they didn't slow down this much. They were about to wrap around Yichen's body. Break! Floating in the lava lake, Yichen held the Thunder Disaster Sword and waved it in the air. Clang 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 clang. The speed at which the chains descended was fast, but Yichen's sword speed was even faster. It was almost 1/10 of a blink of an eye, and the 5 chains had been shattered into pieces. It was unknown how many times they had been attacked. The chains were only the prelude. What followed was a blade light, which looked like an executioner's blade. Unfortunately, it could not escape from Yichen's eyes. Ding! The blade light was blown away by Yichen's casual sword attack. Right now, the punishment kill that had almost killed Yichen and the other 4 had been broken completely. It did not hurt Yichen at all. Yichen? Qing Lu was shocked. Yichen's opponent was Punishment King, one of the top half-step king warriors of True Spirit Continent. His punishment martial art had killed countless people, especially this punishment kill, which was one of his ace attacks. It had been tried and tested many times, but it had been broken by Yichen with only a couple of sword attacks. This brat! How is this possible? Qing Lu was shocked, but the Shield King was even more shocked. He had always thought of Yichen as one of the young warriors, and thought that he would still need a couple of years before he could make a name for himself among the half-step king warriors. So, he had never thought of him as someone on the same level. Right now, his mind was in a mess. The most shocked one would be the Punishment King. No one would be able to surpass him in terms of understanding his ace attacks. Although those chains were only made of Zhen Yuan, they contained 70% of the gold profound. And that blade light that came after was the embodiment of the gold profound. Yi Chen had broken it with only a couple of sword attacks. "Alright, take another attack of mine," the Punishment King yelled. His rich Zhenyuan pushed the lava to the side, forming a dozen meters wide hollow ball. Inside the hollow ball, the Punishment King's hair danced in the air as he formed a spell with both of his hands at an extreme speed. He had formed 8 spells in a row, which only took 1/5 of a blink of an eye. Boom! The lava lake exploded and a massive platform rose up. On the platform, a huge amount of gold element Zhenyuan had formed into a massive blade, hanging high in the air. Yi Chen and Qing Lu were both on the platform. It was also made of Zhenyuan, which was extremely hard and had a power field. Being inside it, one would be restricted and would not be able to use their speed. This is one of the Punishment King's ace attacks. The Shield King let out a breath. The strange thing about punishment martial arts was that it was very hard to avoid. The Punishment King could lock people down and then kill them. The beheading blade could decrease the opponent's speed drastically, and the huge blade hanging in the air was like the executioner's blade. It could lock onto the target, and with one blade attack, no matter how famous the target was, it would be cut in half. Indeed strange. Yi Chen could feel that he had been restricted by a power field, and that blade above him had already locked onto him. The hair on the back of his neck stood up. It was his body's instinct to sense danger. "Fall!" the Punishment King yelled. The blade hanging in the air suddenly fell down, its blade light as fast as a shadow. Ding! Yi Chen raised his Thunder Disaster sword up high, blocking the blade. It is a bit more powerful than the last blade light, but it is still limited. According to the power that came from the Thunder Disaster sword, Yi Chen could guess the attacking power of the blade. Beheading blade. If the head does not fall on the ground, it will not stop until death. The Punishment King controlled the blade with his right hand, and another blade light fell down. Ding, ding, ding. The sound of metal clashing could be heard continuously. No wonder the Punishment King is so confident. It turns out that this blade is just like the flying sword. It can attack continuously, and each attack is more powerful than the previous one. It can make people tired out, and as long as they are tired, the blade will take advantage of it, and the head will fall on the ground. Yi Chen praised inwardly. Punishment King's reputation was not undeserved, but genuine, without the slightest bit of exaggeration. Unfortunately, he was facing Yi Chen. No matter how fast the blade was, it could not be faster than Yi Chen's spiritual sword. In an instant, Yi Chen could unleash hundreds of sword strikes. The speed of the blade paled in comparison. Punishment King, your beheading blade is not much. Now, take one of my moves. Once again blocking the blade, Yi Chen suddenly shot a crescent moon sword energy at the Punishment King. The Punishment King was a peak half-step king, so Thunder Devour and Gold Ripple were useless. Thus, he directly used his strongest sword move. Although the Crescent Moon Sword energy seemed similar to the Crescent Moon Sword Chi, the difference between the two was like heaven and earth. This Crescent Moon Sword energy circulated unceasingly and condensed together. As soon as it was slashed out, the lava in front of it disappeared. Danger! The Punishment King did not expect that Yi Chen would have the time to counterattack while blocking. Obstructing all prosperity, prison gate. The Punishment King could no longer control the beheading blade. His hands joined together and separated, and a prison gate suffused with black chi appeared in front of him. The prison gate seemed as if it had not been repaired for a long time. With a loud rumble, it closed, trapping the Punishment King inside. Everything outside had nothing to do with him. Clang! The Crescent Moon Sword energy slashed at the prison gate, only cutting a few iron bars. Powerful! It's a fusion profound martial skill. It should be metal profound and dark profound. Yi Chen's eyes squinted. He could tell that it was impossible for the Punishment King to create such a powerful fusion profound martial art. It should have been created by the Hell Gate Sect Master, the Hell King. The profoundness contained in this move was too profound. It was not a simple fusion of two profoundness, but it had some kind of special demonic power. Your dark profound comprehension is too low. Let's see how many strikes you can block. Yi Chen waved his Thunder Disaster Sword, and another Crescent Moon Sword energy flew out, slashing at the prison gate, causing it to sway unceasingly. This brat is troublesome. The prison gate will not be able to hold on for much longer. The Punishment King's face turned pale. Before this, he had thought that his opponent would be the Armored King. He had never thought that Yi Chen would be able to suppress him. Go! Making a quick decision, the second the prison gate was about to be cut open, the Punishment King activated his Zhen Yuan and shot out toward the surface of the lava lake. Yi Chen did not chase after him. He had already offended enough parties. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he would not plan to fight to the death with the Punishment King. Forcing him to leave would be more than enough. Once the Punishment King left, there were only 3 people left under the lava lake. Qing Lu and Yi Chen stood on the side, while the Armored King was alone. Alright, it seems like we have all made a mistake. The Armored King glanced at the ripe Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit reluctantly before flashing his body and flying up. He alone could not be Qing Lu and Yi Chen's opponent. Therefore, no matter how good the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit was, he would need to be alive to enjoy it. Right now, he could only give it up. With all the powerful enemies gone, Qing Lu let out a sigh of relief. She then stared at Yi Chen as if he was a monster. No wonder Qing Xian said that as long as you enter the life and death realm, no one in this world would be able to do anything to you. You are even more powerful than she was before. I did not believe it at first, but now I do. Yi Chen only had late Sea of Soul Realm cultivation base. If he reached the Half-Step King realm, then it would be even more terrifying. No Half-Step King would be his opponent. She even suspected that Yi Chen could break the rules of nature and defeat a Life and Death King as a Half-Step King. Of course, it was only a suspicion. Yi Chen smiled as he looked at the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit. Qing Lu said, "It's yours. This Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit is more valuable to you than to me." Then, Yi Chen will not be courteous. Yi Chen activated his Soul Eye, raising his attention and perception to the extreme. He then cautiously approached the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit Tree, avoiding one golden chi flow after another. Soon, Yi Chen arrived beside the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit Tree and reached out his hand to pluck the fruit. As soon as the fruit was plucked, the purple-red small tree immediately decayed and turned into ashes, no longer existing. Chapter 746. If I consume this Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit, my spirit body will definitely rise to the 4th grade. However, it's a pity. The spirit body of a Half-Step King was at the 4th step, which was the key to becoming a Half-Step King. Yi Chen naturally did not have a 4th step spirit body. Back then, he had used the Dragon Blood Grass to raise his spirit body to the 3rd step. During that time, his spirit body had basically not improved much, and was only at the mid-3rd step. Since this Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit could raise the spirit body of a Half-Step King by half a step, then it would naturally be able to raise Yi Chen's spirit body by 1 step or even close to it. Going from the 3rd step to the 4th step was almost guaranteed. However, the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit was something that could only be chanced upon and not sought. Using it now was truly a pity. If he could wait until his spirit body reached the mid or peak 4th step, he would be able to reach the 5th step immediately, which would be even more valuable than the 3rd step. It should be known that the 5th step spirit body was the average standard of Life and Death Kings. In fact, when one first entered Life and Death realm, their spirit body would still be at the 4th step. Without any external help, it would be extremely difficult to reach the 5th step by relying on one's own efforts. It would take at least dozens of years, or even 100 years of effort. After thinking for a while, Yi Chen decided to wait until his cultivation base reached the peak of Late Sea of Soul Realm. At that time, if his spirit body was still at the 3rd step, he would eat the fruit. Let's go up. Qing Lu saw Yi Chen got the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit and said, "Glug glug glug." Golden bubbles appeared on the surface of the magma lake, and soon, 2 figures broke out of the water. When he came up, Yi Chen realized that the Armored King and the Punished King had both disappeared. The remaining people were less than half of the original number. These people did not expect that the one who would get the fruit would be Qing Lu and Yi Chen. Their eyes were all shining with excitement. If you don't want to die, you'd better behave yourself. Qing Lu reminded these people. Not at all. Some people recalled the gloomy expressions of the Punishment King and the Armored King when they left and immediately knew what was going on. Since the Punishment King and the Armored King had suffered a loss, they wouldn't dare to steal the Sky Demon Fire Spirit fruit. Let's go. Yi Chen did not care about these people as he walked up with Qing Lu, Murong and the rest. In front of the White Sheep King's graveyard, the Thunder Spirit King sat cross-legged on the ground, waiting patiently. Behind him, more and more people rushed over from time to time. About an hour later, Yi Chen's group of 5 arrived. I'll get the door. Yi Chen glanced at Thunder Spirit King, Punishment King and the others before he walked towards the entrance of the tomb. The third key is with this kid? Punish King frowned. Adding in Yi Chen, 3 of the 4 keys were in the hands of this youngster. Furthermore, Yi Chen's strength made him extremely apprehensive. Not bad. You didn't make me wait too long. Thunder Spirit King stood up. As Yi Chen inserted the key, the gate of Aries King's graveyard opened. With a swoosh, Thunder Spirit King was the first to enter. White Sheep King is good at illusion, we should be careful. Qing Lu walked over. Yi Chen nodded. As long as we don't separate, there shouldn't be any problems. Just as Qing Lu had said, Aries King's graveyard was filled with all kinds of illusion arrays. Some were used to trap people, some could cause illusions, and some could even lead people astray. Yi Chen and Qing Lu had the highest strength, and their soul power was also the most powerful. Although the illusion array had an effect on them, it was negligible. Murong Qingqing had the perfect demonic blood vessel, which gave her a powerful illusion immunity, so she was fine as well. As for Yen Fengfeng and Sun Tianlang, they suffered a bit. The former fell into an illusion once, and saw the people around her as enemies. The latter was, after all, a half-step king, and could restrain herself. Finally, I've obtained a space profound martial skill. In a secret room, Thunder Spirit King held a jade strip in his hand as he laughed heartily. Although he was one of the strongest half-step kings, there were 2 others who were equally famous as him. There was no one who didn't wish to be a bit more powerful and comprehend a bit more profound. Moreover, although half-step king and life and death realms seemed to only be separated by a thin line, it was actually an abyss. Without an opportunity, one would never be able to step into it in their lifetime. Before that, he had to make ample preparations to attack life and death realm. With this space profound martial skill, my stagnant strength will certainly improve again, and I'll have an opportunity to attack life and death realm. Seems like the heavens are still taking care of me. Carefully putting away the jade strip, Thunder Spirit King left the secret room with a happy mood. When Yi Chen's group entered White Sheep King's graveyard, the 100 people following behind also entered Firebird King's graveyard. Unfortunately, not only did they not obtain any treasures, they were hunted down by 4 dangerous creatures, leaving not even their bones behind. In a passage, 2 half-step kings were trapped in midair, unable to budge. What trapped them was an incorporeal spider web that couldn't be seen with the naked eye. Even if one were to release their soul power, they would have to search over and over again in order to sense the slightest trace. Unfortunately, who would have thought that there would be a spider web in the passage? A moment of carelessness and they would be caught, losing control of their lives. Another 2. Shadow Ghost Bat King didn't speak any nonsense. It bit the neck of a half-step king and fiercely sucked his blood essence. As for the other half-step king, he became food for the 2 hunters and was brutally dismembered. Licking his lips, Shadow Ghost Bat King threw away the dried corpse in his hand and said with an evil smile, "With our strength, we have no opponents here. I hope we can meet that person." Shadow Ghost Bat King's pride was extremely strong, so he hated Thunder Spirit King who had humiliated him. Recalling the scene of him begging for mercy, he gnashed his teeth in hatred. Swamp King said in a muffled voice, "He's very strong. It's best if we don't provoke him for now." Just like Shadow Ghost Bat King, Swamp King was also beaten miserably by Thunder Spirit King. Only after killing enough half-step kings with great difficulty did his strength recover. Afterwards, his strength returned to its peak, and his frontal battle strength was already at the peak of half-step kings. I know what you're saying. I can feel that my strength has increased a lot. Shadow Ghost Bat King was different from other creatures. Within a certain limit, as long as he absorbed enough blood essence, his strength could increase. Along the way, he had killed 7 or 8 half-step kings. His strength had long since surpassed his peak, reaching a new height. This was also the source of his confidence. Let's go. Shadow Ghost Bat King didn't say much and walked ahead. In White Sheep King's graveyard, Yi Chen and the rest didn't have any harvest. After half a day, the 5 arrived before Sky Scorpio King's graveyard. Unexpectedly, the graveyard's entrance was already open. They wondered who had the 4th key. Was it a youngster? Walking in the graveyard's passageway, Qing Lu said, Sky Scorpio King is the strongest demonic beast king under 4 Extreme Emperor. He's a rare demonic beast sword artist who likes to use swords. His sword art's realm is also very high. Back then, some even called him Sky Scorpio Sword King. Sky Scorpio King is a demonic beast sword artist who likes to collect swords. Perhaps there's a sword mound in his graveyard. Sword mound meant a graveyard of swords. Some powerful sword kings would build a sword mound for their beloved swords in addition to their own graveyard before their death. Apart from their beloved swords, there were also many treasured swords in the sword mound. Sky Scorpio King is a sword artist? Yi Chen felt that it was very novel. Qing Lu nodded. Right? Sky Scorpio King's sword was also very famous at that time. It's called Sky Scorpio Sword. It's said that he forged it himself, using supreme grade materials. Some of them can't even be found on True Spirit Continent, and can only be found on some planets in the starry sky. Because some planets contain special energy, his Sky Scorpio sword also inherited this energy, greatly increasing its destructive power. It's much more powerful than ordinary supreme grade swords. Of course, I'm only guessing. Perhaps Sky Scorpio King won't build a sword mound. Let's hope we're lucky. The Battle King's sword in Yi Chen's storage ring was also a supreme grade sword, but it was damaged and didn't have a trace of power. Forging it again would be meaningless. However, the damaged Battle King's sword also had value. If Yi Chen wanted to forge a sword, he could extract some useful materials from the damaged sword, saving him a lot of effort. Sky Scorpio King's graveyard was the largest among the 4 demonic beast kings. After walking for half a day, the 5 still hadn't reached the end. But there is Sword Chi. Yi Chen, who was walking in front, suddenly frowned as he tried to sense it carefully. Are there sword artists battling? Qing Lu asked. Yi Chen shook his head slightly. No, this sword chi is different from the sword chi that was shot out. It is the chi of the sword, and there are many kinds of them. Yi Chen was a sword artist, so he was very sensitive to sword chi. It might be the location of the sword grave. Qing Lu's eyes brightened. Follow me. With the subtle feeling of the sword chi, Yi Chen led the way in the front. After a few turns, Yi Chen and the other 4 unknowingly arrived in front of a massive stone door. The door was half opened, and countless kinds of sword chi leaked out, cutting the air. It is indeed the sword grave. Qing Lu said with certainty. Someone has already entered. Yi Chen glanced at the half-open door, flashed his body and flew in. So many swords. Once the 5 entered, they were immediately shocked by the scene in front of them. Yan Fengfeng and Murong Qingqing even lifted up their heads, their mouths wide open. In their sight, there were swords everywhere. Inside the sword grave, there were all kinds of swords. There were swords stuck in the low places, and there were also swords stuck in the high places. Every few steps, there would be a sword stuck in the ground. Looking over, there was no end to the sword grave at all. This is a low-rank great sword. Yi Chen touched one of the swords on the outside and said. Murong Qingqing said strangely, after tens of thousands of years, the low-rank great swords should not be able to survive. How come the swords here do not seem to be damaged at all? Yi Chen said, if I have guessed it right, after the passage of time, the swords in the sword grave had already sensed each other and could use sword chi to nourish each other, and the other would also use sword chi to nourish each other. There are thousands of swords here, thousands of sword chi lingering around, which had become the best nourishment for these swords. Therefore, after tens of thousands of years, the swords here have become sharper instead of damaged. Yen Fengfeng said, "Perhaps there really is the Sky Scorpio sword here. Let's go look for it." It does not seem easy. These swords have the same chi, and they seem to be hiding their chi. Murong Qingqing looked around, but could not see anything. Yichen smiled, "You are right. The swords have their own spirits, and will not release their chi in public. Therefore, if we want to find a good sword, we would have to understand it very well and have a pair of sharp eyes. All right, I would like to see if I can find the Sky Scorpio sword among these thousands of swords." Chapter 747. There were too many swords in the sword mound. As far as the eye could see, it was like a sea of swords, a mountain of swords. Countless sword chi clashed in the air, issuing metallic clanging sounds. Yichen walked at the front alone, gradually going deeper. What a powerful sword chi! He couldn't sense how powerful the sword chi was from the outside, but as he went deeper, more and more incorporeal sword chi slashed at Yichen, as if wanting to cut him into countless pieces. The sword chi accumulated by thousands upon thousands of swords was no joke. Plus, Yichen realized that being surrounded by so many great swords, his sight and soul power started to get mixed up. Just by looking with his naked eyes and sensing with his soul power, he could not tell which sword was special at all. In fact, he even had the illusion that all of them were good swords. Seems like I can only rely on my intuition toward swords. Yi Chen's expression didn't change as he resolutely walked forward, using his heart to sense the call of the swords. In this huge sword mound, there seemed to be no sword that was the same. Not only were they of different colors, even their shapes were bizarre. Some swords were as tall as a person, broad and heavy, weighing no less than several thousand jin. Some swords were as long as a forearm and as wide as a finger. Although they were called swords, they were actually more like extended daggers. Some swords were covered in sawtooth edges, brimming with evil chi. Some swords had a forked front like a snake's tongue. Some swords were incomparably gorgeous, inlaid with all kinds of gems and crystals. There were also some swords that were extremely simple, only made of 2 pieces of wood. With so many treasured swords, with so many shapes and auras, no one knew which swords were good, and which swords were just for show and not powerful at all. Sky Scorpio sword. Where is it? Before Yi Chen and the rest entered, a half-step king had already entered. This half-step king was a sword artist with the title of Metal Sword King. He primarily cultivated metal attribute Genuan, and his profound was also metal profound. His sword arts were incomparably sharp and unstoppable, displaying the sharpness of metal. He was quite famous among half-step kings. It was already not bad to have a supreme grade sword in the sword mound. Without a doubt, the Sky Scorpio sword was the strongest in the sword mound of the Sky Scorpio king. However, there were too many swords in the sword mound, and these swords had their own spirituality. They didn't deliberately release their aura, but instead knew how to hide their aura. Then, through the myriad of sword chi, they could confuse the senses, making it even harder to find the Sky Scorpio sword. As far as the Metal Sword King was concerned, semi-extreme grade swords had no meaning other than selling them for some upper-grade spirit stones. Therefore, he only had one target, the Sky Scorpio sword. I don't believe I can't find the Sky Scorpio sword. The Metal Sword King was extremely confident that he could find the Sky Scorpio sword. If he didn't have confidence, he wouldn't have become a half-step king with the identity of a sword artist. Suddenly, the Metal Sword King's attention was attracted by a flicker of golden light. A faint golden sword was stabbed into the pit in front of him. The sword's body was long and slender, and 2 words were carved on its hilt, Jin Ing. Although this sword was deliberately hiding its aura, its sharpness couldn't be concealed. As long as one approached it, one could feel the sword chi that seemed capable of cutting one's soul. Good sword. Moreover, it's a metal attribute sword. The Metal Sword King's face lit up as he extended his hand, intending to pull it out. But halfway through, the Metal Sword King hesitated. His target was the Sky Scorpio sword. Clearly, this sword couldn't be the Sky Scorpio sword. He hadn't heard that the Sky Scorpio sword was metal attribute, and the Sky Scorpio King himself was not a metal attribute demonic beast. Moreover, the two words carved on the hilt of the sword should be the name of the sword. The Jin Ing sword is extraordinary. It's definitely a supreme grade sword. I can't let it go. In any case, after taking the Jin Ing sword, I'll go find the Sky Scorpio sword. After a moment of hesitation, the Metal Sword King grabbed the hilt of the Jin Ing sword and pulled it out. Clang. As the sword was pulled out, a golden sword chi soared into the sky and circled above the sword mound. At the same time, hundreds of swords in the surroundings rang out, seemingly paying homage to the sword in the Metal Sword King's hand. Seeing this, the Metal Sword King let out a sigh of relief. His consciousness sank into the Jin Ing sword, determining its grade. The higher the grade of a sword, the more difficult it was to determine when it was hiding its aura. It was unlike a low-grade sword, which could be determined with a touch. After a while, an incomparably disappointed expression flickered on the Metal Sword King's face. The Jin Ing sword was not an extreme-grade sword, not even a semi-extreme-grade sword. It was only an upper-grade sword. As far as he was concerned, it was just a piece of scrap metal without the slightest value. Depressed, the Metal Sword King pulled out an ordinary longsword beside him as if venting. How is this possible? What astonished the Metal Sword King was that this ordinary longsword he had casually pulled out unexpectedly blossomed with an icy blue radiance. The sword chi radiated in the surroundings, causing the surrounding longswords to sway. It's a semi-extreme grade sword. After a careful inspection, the Metal Sword King discovered that this was a semi-extreme grade sword. Before this, he had only treated it as an ordinary low-grade sword and didn't pay much attention to it. Could it be that in this sword catacomb, the more high-profile a sword is, the lower the chances of it being a good sword even though its grade isn't too low? On the other hand, ordinary and inconspicuous swords have a higher chance of being a good sword, or even a supreme grade sword. This result made the Metal Sword King very excited. He had finally found a pattern. Swords have sword bones. If the sword bones are upright, the sword chi will be strong. Yi Chen was like a cursory glance as he shuttled through the mountains and seas of swords. Occasionally, he would come across a sword with a clear sword bone and touch it. It was easy to see that the swords Yi Chen touched were not all of the same style. Some swords were high-profile and powerful, showing off their sharpness. Some swords were calm like water, silently nourishing everything. Some swords were simple and unadorned, but not refined. He wasn't like the Metal Sword King, who only paid attention to the sword's aura and unintentionally pulled out a simple sword, thinking that it was better to be unremarkable. In Yi Chen's opinion, a powerful aura and a simple and unadorned form were just the appearance of a sword. Perhaps he might come across a good sword if he was lucky, but most of the time, he would be disappointed. The more powerful the sword, the more spirituality it had. A sword with spirituality was no longer an inanimate object. It had a sword bone just like humans. Humans had bones in their bodies, and some masters would describe geniuses with potential as having a clear and wondrous bone. Therefore, a good sword would also have a good sword bone. Of course, nothing was absolute. Perhaps there would be a sword with a bad sword bone but a powerful sword chi. But everyone had their own area of expertise, and it could not be forced. On the way, Yi Chen had also seen some semi-extreme rank swords, but he did not pull them out. Before he found the Sky Scorpio sword, he would not pull out any sword. It was not because he had sensed something, but it was just his instinct. The swords in the sword grave had been through tens of thousands of years, and their spirituality was much stronger than other swords of the same rank. If he pulled out another sword right now, it would be disrespectful to the Sky Scorpio sword, and he might miss it. As for Qing Lu and the rest, they did not have this concern. They saw some decent swords and pulled them out. However, after each of them had pulled out a couple of swords, the sword chi in the sword grave suddenly started to target them. Before, the sword chi in the sword grave was formed naturally, but this sword chi was created by countless swords. The sword chi was 10 times stronger than before, and even Qing Lu was not feeling well, so she stopped pulling out her sword. So many swords that look exactly the same? After walking for 10 minutes, everyone's vision blurred. Looking over, dozens of meters ahead, there was a huge area filled with swords that looked exactly the same. These swords were all around 4 feet long, silver with a hint of purple. The sword hilt was black, and it looked like a black scorpion. The tail of the black scorpion was the tip of the hilt, and its 2 huge pincers were opened, forming a sword socket, protecting the sword artist's palm. And in the middle of the sword socket, there were 2 peanut-sized red gems, which looked like the eyes of the black scorpion. The silver with a hint of purple sword body was spat out from the black scorpion's mouth. It was extremely sharp, and its aura alone gave people an unbearable feeling. Sky Scorpio sword, it must be the Sky Scorpio sword, but why are there so many? Qing Lu's breath slightly increased as she mumbled to herself. There should only be one real one, and the rest are all replicas? Although Murong Qingqing said so, when she used her demon eyes, she realized that every sword was exactly the same, even the aura was exactly the same. She could not tell which one was special. There is only one real Sky Scorpio sword. Yi Chen's expression turned serious as he walked over one step at a time. First come, first served. These Sky Scorpio swords are all mine. I'll go back and slowly figure them out. Just as Yi Chen was walking over, another figure walked out from another direction. It was the Metal Sword King. Seeing so many Sky Scorpio swords, his face revealed a joyful expression. He waved his hand, and his Zhenyuan formed a huge hand, wanting to collect all the Sky Scorpio swords into his storage ring. Overestimating yourself? Yi Chen did not stop him, revealing a sneer on his face. Ting! Just as Yi Chen finished his words, hundreds of Sky Scorpio swords made a ringing sound. Purple sword chi spiraled out and gathered together, forming a huge purple sword aura. It slashed apart the Metal Sword King's huge Zhenyuan hand, then slashed toward his body. What? The Metal Sword King was shocked. He pulled out his great sword and blocked in front of him. Kacha! The great sword in the Metal Sword King's hand was a semi-extreme rank great sword called the Absolute Gold Sword. It had accompanied him for dozens of years, stained with the blood of countless experts. However, under the purple sword aura's attack, the Absolute Gold Sword was immediately broken, shattering like a crystal. A wave of sword chi passed through the shattered Absolute Gold Sword and heavily attacked the Metal Sword King's protective Zhenyuan. Spurting out a huge mouthful of blood, the Metal Sword King was sent flying, knocking away countless swords along the way. The swords flew everywhere like flying swords. Qing Lu and the rest were shocked by this scene. Hundreds of Sky Scorpio swords had actually released sword chi on their own, causing a half-step Sword King to puke out blood. Even the semi-extreme rank great sword was shattered in one strike. If not for the semi-extreme rank great sword blocking, the purple sword aura might have killed the Metal Sword King completely. There must be a Sky Scorpio sword inside. Qing Lu was even more certain of her thoughts. Even if all the Sky Scorpio swords here were upper rank great swords, they would not be able to break a semi-extreme rank great sword. If it were that easy to break, it would not be a semi-extreme rank great sword. It should be known that even normal life and death realm warriors would not be able to break a semi-extreme rank great weapon with one strike, unless it had no master. Damn it! How could it be like this? The Metal Sword King was heavily wounded, lying on the ground, unable to get up. Looking carefully, one could see that the clothes on his chest had already crystallized, turning into tiny particles. The skin in front of his chest had also crystallized, with many cracks on it. The power of the purple sword aura was horrifying, and it was still under the condition of not having a master. Chapter 748. In that split second, 3 Sky Scorpio swords were the first to release sword chi, and the others followed closely behind. Yi Chen clearly saw that hundreds of Sky Scorpio swords seemed to release sword chi at the same time, but in fact, 3 swords were the fastest, and seemed to be guiding the others. However, there is only one true Sky Scorpio sword. Yi Chen walked into the crowd of Sky Scorpio swords. The auras of the three swords are the same, and the sword bones are also about the same. There is no difference between them? Yi Chen didn't pull out any of the Sky Scorpio swords, but only touched them one by one, feeling the subtle differences in auras and the feeling they gave him. However, the result left him puzzled. These three swords, no matter how he looked at them, were the same. Yi Chen, is Sky Scorpio sword among these three? Murong Qingqing asked. Yi Chen shook his head. I don't know either. A moment ago, he was sure that the true Sky Scorpio sword was among these three swords, but now he didn't dare to be sure. Even if there were some slight differences in appearance and sword bones, they were at the same level. Among these three swords, which one is the true Sky Scorpio sword? Yi Chen stood in the middle of the three swords, pondering with his head lowered. Or maybe I'm wrong, and the true Sky Scorpio sword isn't among them. Immediately, a new idea popped up in Yi Chen's mind. Yes, this is a possibility. If the Sky Scorpio sword was the first to release sword chi, then there should only be one and not three. The reason for the three is very likely to be the Sky Scorpio sword trying to confuse me, diverting my attention to these three swords, while it hid among the other swords. I didn't expect that I was almost fooled by a sword. Raising his head, Yi Chen revealed a smile. You are not. You are not either. Strolling among the Sky Scorpio swords, Yi Chen touched them one by one. This method was stupid, but also the most practical. Anyway, there were only 500 to 600 Sky Scorpio swords here, and it wouldn't take long to touch them all. He didn't want to be fooled by them. It seems to be you. After touching more than 300 Sky Scorpio swords, Yi Chen finally found the one that was most likely to be the Sky Scorpio sword. When he touched the sword, there was nothing strange at first. However, after rubbing it for a while, he immediately felt an extremely overbearing power stirring. As this feeling arose, Yi Chen caught a glimpse of a faint purple light flashing across the blade of the sword. If he didn't look carefully, he would have missed it. Senior Qing Lu had said that the Sky Scorpio sword had a material that came from a planet in the sky, containing a special power. Other swords do not have this kind of vibration, only this sword does. It was rare for treasures to possess special powers. They were usually inherited from the materials they were forged from, so it was impossible to fake them. This sword was most likely the genuine one. If that's not the case, I'll admit it. Yi Chen firmly believed in his choice. A swordsman's greatest taboo was hesitation. Clang. With his hand on the hilt, Yi Chen pulled out the Sky Scorpio sword. The second Yi Chen pulled out the Sky Scorpio sword, the sword suddenly shone with a purple light. Under the purple light, the ground nearby and the other Sky Scorpio swords started to form purple crystals at an extremely fast speed. The crystals expanded gradually, eventually covering dozens of meters in radius. What kind of power is this? Yi Chen's eyebrows flicked as his left hand touched the hilt of a Sky Scorpio sword right next to him, then slightly tightened his grip. Bang! A shocking scene happened. This sword, which was at least a mid-rank one, was shattered like a purple crystal. Purple crystal iron. I did not expect that there would be purple crystal iron in the Sky Scorpio sword. Qing Lu blurted out. Yan Fengfeng asked, Teacher, what is purple crystal iron? How come I have never heard of it? Qing Lu said, even within the top quality metals, there are good ones and bad ones. The most famous ones are the top 10 metals, and the purple crystal iron is one of them, ranked number 7. The purple crystal iron contains the power of crystallization, and most of the objects that are touched by the purple light will immediately crystallize. Even if it is the same rank materials, if they are touched by the purple light for too long, they will also be damaged. Then this is the Sky Scorpio sword? Murong Qingqing felt that the Sky Scorpio sword in Yi Chen's hand seemed to be normal except for the powerful purple light. Otherwise, why did it have no reaction after being pulled out? Ting. Just as Murong Qingqing finished her sentence, the Sky Scorpio sword in Yi Chen's hand suddenly enlarged, from 4 feet and 2 feet to 3 meters, 2 meters, 3 meters, 30 meters, 30 meters, 30 meters, 30 meters. 30 meters huge Sky Scorpio sword, which was even bigger than Yi Chen's body. Yi Chen's figure could no longer be seen. Once the Sky Scorpio sword enlarged, it created a horrifying commotion. The sword chi inside the sword grave became more and more intense, like a tornado. In the next second, all of the swords were pulled out automatically, floating in the air with the Sky Scorpio sword as the center. They slowly rotated like thousands of swords worshipping each other. This is the real Sky Scorpio sword? The Metal Sword King's eyes were wide open. It is indeed the extreme rank Sky Scorpio sword. Yi Chen laughed heartily. The 30-meter-long Sky Scorpio sword was extremely heavy, weighing at least 10,000 jin. Lifting it in his hand felt like lifting a small mountain. As far as he knew, only some special semi-extreme grade artifacts could enlarge it. Only extreme grade artifacts could do this. And he had already examined it carefully, and it was indeed an extreme grade artifact. It was the real deal. Yi Chen, congratulations. The Sky Scorpio sword contains the purple crystal iron. Even among the extreme rank weapons, it is still a top-grade weapon. Qing Lu was very envious of Yi Chen's luck. There were so many life and death realm warriors who wanted an extreme rank weapon, but failed to do so. And Yi Chen was only at late Sea of Souls realm, but he already had an extreme rank sword. If this news got out, it would definitely make countless people jealous. This might be my lucky chance. Yi Chen was imprinting the soul mark on the Sky Scorpio sword. Without it, he would not be able to make the sword smaller. If it did not shrink, not only would it take up a lot of space, it would also be unusable. Yeah, you have one of the keys, so you must have had a great fortune. The Sky Scorpio sword should belong to you. Qing Lu thought about it and agreed with him. 4 keys, for people would get them, and the ones who got them would be people with great fortune and fortune. Imprinting the soul mark on the Sky Scorpio sword was very easy. After tens of thousands of years, the soul mark that the Sky Scorpio King had left on the sword had already been used up. Right now, the sword was ownerless. Imprinting the soul mark on an ownerless object would not be a problem. Soon, Yi Chen successfully imprinted his own soul mark on the sword. Shrink. Yi Chen controlled the Sky Scorpio sword through the soul mark. The Sky Scorpio sword shrunk back to its original size, 4 feet and 2 inches. Holding the Sky Scorpio sword in his right hand, Yi Chen did not pour in his Zhenyuan and casually waved it twice. 2 crystal marks appeared in the air, which was the sign of air crystallization. One could imagine that even an ordinary person holding the Sky Scorpio sword would be able to kill a powerful martial artist, provided that he could lift it up. This Sky Scorpio sword weighed over 10,000 jin, and Yi Chen's strength exceeded 400,000 jin. Adding the explosive Zhenyuan, he could only wave it around with a weight of more than several 100,000 jin. This Sky Scorpio sword is an extreme grade sword. You can't keep it. Give it to me and you can live for a few more years. Otherwise, if I leak the news, you will die for sure. The Metal Sword King had unknowingly finished recuperating his body. He stood up and greedily stared at the sword in Yi Chen's hand. Yi Chen glanced at the Metal Sword King. I'm afraid even you can't keep it? I have my methods. You better think about it. One wrong move and you might lose your life. Of course, I won't take your sword for nothing. I will compensate you for your loss. On the other hand, if you don't agree, then the news of you getting the sword will leak out. I believe there will be a lot of life and death kings eyeing it. Sorry, not possible. Yi Chen's expression was cold. Then don't blame me. The Metal Sword King flew out of the sword grave, increasing his speed to the limit. Obviously, he was also afraid of Yi Chen and Qing Lu joining hands. We can't let him live. Qing Lu took out her sky hammer, preparing to attack. Senior, let me do it. Yi Chen would naturally not let the Metal Sword King go. If the latter had not threatened him, he might have hesitated a bit and not killed him right away. But now, there was no need for that. The latter would die for sure. Holding the Sky Scorpio sword, Yi Chen raised it up high. Dense Zhenyuan poured into the sword through the Laogong meridian in his palm. Ting! The purple light on the Sky Scorpio sword shone brightly, illuminating a purple halo. At the same time, a purple sword light appeared on the tip of the sword. Go! A vein popped out on Yi Chen's forehead. Waving both of his hands, the Sky Scorpio sword slashed down. No one could describe how breathtaking this sword was. Time within the sword mound seemed to slow down until it came to a standstill. All moving objects seemed to be frozen in that instant. As for the Golden Sword King, his flying speed grew slower and slower, but he himself didn't notice it. The purple sword light was like a purple shooting star in the universe. It instantly slashed at the back of the Metal Sword King, not giving him any time to react. Gotcha! The Metal Sword King's body was directly cut into two, and it was not over yet. The two halves of the corpse instantly crystallized, looking like two pieces of purple crystal. After the purple sword light cut through the Metal Sword King's body, the remaining power did not dissipate. It pierced through the wall of the sword grave as well, landing on the opposite wall. Of course, the opposite wall could not block it. Just like that, the purple sword light pierced through countless walls before stopping. The two crystallized corpses fell on the ground, shattering into pieces. With one sword, the Metal Sword King died miserably. Moreover, it was the kind of crushing death without any suspense. Seeing the Metal Sword King killed, Yi Chen heavily gasped for breath. His complexion was incomparably pale, and beads of cold sweat dripped down his face. That sword strike just now had completely emptied his Zhen Yuan, not leaving a trace behind. It seemed as if it wished to drain his blood. That feeling of Zhen Yuan being emptied in an instant made Yi Chen extremely weak. He could not even hold the Sky Scorpio sword tightly, and it stabbed into the ground. This Sky Scorpio sword is simply an insatiable black hole. Yi Chen faintly sensed that even with all his Zhen Yuan, he might not be able to use the Sky Scorpio sword's full strength. 50 to 60% of its might would already be pretty good. Perhaps he would need to reach half-step King Realm before he could fully display its might. Fortunately, I have the Dragon God Medal. The Dragon God Medal was the highest medal of the Dragon God's Celestial Palace. At the same time, it was a treasure that could store a third of Yi Chen's Zhen Yuan. Activating the Dragon God Medal, a large amount of Zhen Yuan poured into Yi Chen's body. This Zhen Yuan and Yi Chen's were of the same origin, without the slightest conflict. Chapter 749. So frightening. Qing Lu, Murong Qingqing and the rest were shocked. Yi Chen's sword attack did not have any mysteries, only pouring his Zhen Yuan into the Sky Scorpio sword and shooting out a sword light. However, the power of that sword light was extremely horrifying. Qing Lu's Sky Hammer was also a low-quality extreme rank weapon. Judging on its power, it was probably not even one-third of the Sky Scorpio sword's power. And this was still because Yi Chen could not bring out the sword's full power. Otherwise, the Sky Hammer might not even be one-fifth as powerful as the Sky Scorpio sword. Yi Chen, the Sky Scorpio sword is a supreme treasure. Even if it is powerful, you should not use it casually. Once Life and Death Realm warriors know that you have it, the consequences will be unimaginable. Qing Lu reminded Yi Chen. Yeah, there are a lot of Life and Death Realm warriors without extreme rank weapons. And the Sky Scorpio sword is obviously not a normal extreme rank weapon. It will make the King warriors crazy. Sun Tianlang looked away from the Sky Scorpio sword and nodded. Don't worry about me. Yi Chen of course knew about the principle of not showing off one's wealth. It could only be used when it was absolutely safe. Inside the sword grave, there were a lot of great swords. After taking the Sky Scorpio sword, Yi Chen collected another 7 to 8 semi-extreme rank swords and hundreds of top-rank swords. Qing Lu and the other 3 also collected a lot, all of the mid-rank and above great swords. The rest of the great swords in the grave suddenly snapped in half and then started to rot. It turned out that the reason why these low-rank and mid-rank swords could be preserved for tens of thousands of years was because the sword grave was a sealed space, and there was a lot of sword qi to train them. Now that the main sword had been taken, the low-rank and mid-rank swords immediately started to crumble. Let's go! Yi Chen and the other 4 left the sword grave. The tombs of the Ash Wolf King, Firebird King, White Sheep King, and Sky Scorpion King contained many treasures. Anyone who entered this place as long as they were alive would have a harvest. However, everyone knew that compared to the tomb of Emperor of Four Extremes, the previous four tombs were nothing. The graveyard of the Four Extremes Emperor was an emperor's graveyard, and the Four Extremes Emperor was not a titled monarch. He was an ancient hero who could leave his mark on the Emperor's scar steel. If he were to come back to life, he could turn Elysium upside down with a single hand and control the world. What Su King, what Heir Emperor, they would all be fleeting clouds. Only a titled monarch who could leave his mark on the Emperor's scar steel could compete with him. Unfortunately, there were no such titled monarchs in this era. Although the graveyard of Four Extremes Emperor was good, everyone knew that it would be the turn of the Life and Death Kings next. They could only stand to the side. If their luck was good, they might be able to pick up some leftovers. Of course, this possibility was minuscule. Passing through the graveyard of Sky Scorpion King, Yi Chen and the other four arrived at a vast plaza. The entire plaza was paved with dark blue boulders. At each of the four corners of the plaza stood a statue. There was the Ash Wolf statue, the Firebird statue, the Aries statue, and the Scorpio statue. In the center of the plaza, there was an even larger statue of a human. This human statue was almost 100 meters tall and was cast from an unknown boulder. The surface of the statue was suffused with a simple but magnificent radiance. The human statue's expression was solemn. Its shoulders were wide, and its legs were long. Its right hand reached out. This hand looked ordinary, but it gave people a feeling of being able to overturn the heaven and earth. Even Yi Chen's heart raced as he was shocked by the statue's aura. Statue of Four Extremes Emperor. Qin Lu raised her head and said with a reverent tone. Sun Tianlang said, a peerless genius from 70,000 years ago. If he were still alive, how powerful would he be? No matter what kind of genius, what kind of king, they would all be shrouded in his shadow. It had been a very long time since a titled monarch had appeared on the Emperor's scar steel. Su King had tried, but he failed. Heir Emperor had tried, but he also failed. Ever since the era of Yuan Emperor, countless people had tried, but they had all failed. This had created an argument that no one could surpass the ancients anymore. They believed that the current era had already declined, and there would no longer be that kind of peerless genius. He's here. He has the third key. The arrival of Yi Chen's group attracted a lot of attention. However, everyone's gaze was focused on Yi Chen, because he had the key to Aries constellation. Yi Chen. Dan Tai Mingyue walked over. What is it? Dan Tai Mingyue said, I have the fourth key. Adding Jiang Tian, Xia Hozuan, and yours, it will be 4. It will be enough to open the gate of Four Extremes Emperor's graveyard. The fourth key is with you? Yi Chen had already suspected it. He did not expect the Scorpio key to really be with her. Then, she must have also trained the most powerful movement of the void-shattering finger, the fourth movement. Indeed. Dan Tai Mingyue nodded. All right, let's go. Yi Chen did not reject it. The third key was with him, so he had to go even if he did not want to. Otherwise, he would be the target of everyone. It's opening. Everyone saw Yi Chen, Dan Tai Mingyue, and the other 3 walking toward the gate. They all held their breath and stared at the gate without blinking. Begin. Dan Tai Mingyue inserted her key first. Jiang Tian glanced at Yi Chen before inserting his own key as well. Then, it was Xia Hozuan and Yi Chen. The 4 keys were inserted at the same time, and the gate lit up with a blinding light. A wave of power blew the 4 away. The gate did not open immediately. Instead, 4 tiny light beams shot out, shooting toward Yi Chen and the other 3 at an extremely fast speed. Yi Chen's eyes and hands were quick as he reached out his hand to grab the light beam. Opening his hand, he saw a jade scroll. Jade scroll? Yi Chen looked confused. According to what he knew, jade scrolls usually stored profound sense martial arts or high-rank secret arts. Turning his head to look at Dan Tai Mingyue and the other 2, Yi Chen found that they had each gotten a jade scroll as well. All of them had strange expressions on their faces. Jade scroll? It must be Four Extremes Emperor's martial art. Getting the keys has so many benefits. Everyone's breathing quickened, wishing that they could go and snatch it. However, they did not dare to do it openly, and could only look at it secretly. Let's learn it first. Yichun poured his soul power into the Jade Scroll. At the same time, a group of uninvited guests appeared in the 4 graveyards ahead. This group of uninvited guests was too powerful. Their figures flickered as if they were teleporting, appearing anywhere. Even the walls of the passage couldn't stop them. They were not ordinary people, but genuine life and death kings. Hee, our luck is not bad. We actually encountered 4 heterogeneous beings at once. This should be a ghost shadow bat, right? It can be raised into a heterogeneous killer. This swamp king can protect the gate, and these 2 predators can produce countless thousand years spider silk. The hard wall of the tunnel rippled like water. An old man in black walked out of the wall. The old man in black looked normal, but when the Bat King was stared at by him, it felt its body go numb, and it could not move. It's a life and death king. Damn it. How can a life and death king come here? The previously high-spirited ghost Shadow Bat King's face was now filled with despair. Encountering a life and death king, escaping was already an extravagant hope. It couldn't even commit suicide. Squeak. The predators began to squeak, their small eyes filled with fear. Don't be afraid, I won't kill you. The black-robed old man waved his hand, and the ghost Shadow Bat King's body was involuntarily pulled over. It then turned into a black light and entered the black-robed old man's beast token. After collecting the ghost Shadow Bat King, the black-robed old man grabbed the Swamp King. Night Ghost King, leave this swamp creature to me. An earthen yellow ripple appeared on the opposite wall, and a tall middle-aged man with a majestic figure walked out. With a wave of his hand, the restriction the black-robed old man had placed on the Swamp King was immediately dispersed. Swamp King then arrived at the tall middle-aged man's side and was collected by him. Beast King, you dare to fight with me? The black-robed old man Night Ghost King's eyes narrowed, revealing his killing intent. This was the gaze of a super assassin, capable of dispelling the false and leaving the true, directly penetrating the soul. Why wouldn't I dare? The Beast King's body was covered with an earthy yellow halo. His body surface was full of cracks, looking very tough. It was obvious that compared to the time in the parallel space battlefield, the Beast King's cultivation had improved a lot. It should be because he had refined the 2 Earth Yuan crystals that he had traded with the Black Thunder King that his cultivation had increased by 40 years. Humph, only a fool would fight you head-on. But, be careful of dying under my assassination one day. The killing intent on the Night Ghost King's body disappeared in an instant. His cultivation base was similar to the Beast King's, but the latter cultivated Earth Zhenyuan as well as Earth Profound. In terms of defense, he far surpassed kings of the same level. Moreover, the Night Ghost King specialized in assassination, so how could he confront the Beast King head-on? It was not his style. Say it if you have the ability. The Beast King didn't fear the Night Ghost King in the slightest. Life and Death Kings rarely fought to the death. After all, if they couldn't kill each other, they would gain an enemy who wouldn't be able to sleep at night. The remaining 2 predators shivered in front of the 2 genuine kings. How could they have the aura and ferocity of predators? They were like pitiful little rabbits. Collect. The Beast King and the Night Ghost King waved their hands, preparing to collect a predator each. However, things didn't go as smoothly as they thought. In the void, 2 large nets appeared out of nowhere, trapping the Beast King and the Night Ghost King. Who is it? The Beast King and the Night Ghost King were greatly alarmed. Someone capable of trapping them was naturally a life and death king. Moreover, their cultivation base was definitely above theirs. You 2 are quite daring to collect the Spider Clan in front of me. Above the passageway, black ripples flowed, and a throne descended. The throne was tied to a thin thread, and sitting on the throne was a beautiful young woman in a black robe. Her lips were purplish red, and there were 4 eyes on her forehead. They were tightly shut, making her look both beautiful and dangerous. Black Mountain Queen. The Night Ghost King's figure twisted and fell off the spider web. His brows creased as he thought of retreating. This Black Mountain Queen was not a human, but a demonic beast king cultivated from a spider beast. At the same level, The strength of a demonic beast king was above that of a human. What was more frightening was that this Black Mountain Queen's cultivation base was at least 800 years. Even if the two of them worked together, they wouldn't be her opponent. Black Mountain Queen, those who don't know are innocent. These two predators are yours. The Beast King used a method to struggle free from the spider web and said helplessly. The Black Mountain Queen didn't reply. Sitting on the throne, she said to the two predators, "Little fellows, you're lucky to have met me. Otherwise, you'd have become someone else's pet." Hearing the word pet, memories and hatred flickered in the Black Mountain Queen's eyes. Buzz. As the three confronted each other, a spatial ripple radiated from the distance. The boundless aura made the three unable to resist. Chapter 750. It's Xianhou. The Beast King muttered. Back in the planar battlefield, a will projection of Xianhou had already made them feel threatened. Now that Xianhou had personally arrived, her aura was much stronger than a will projection. Regarding Xuanhou's matters, it would take more than 3 days and 3 nights to finish. They only knew that she was the youngest life and death king in 1,000 years, several times younger than the Beast King. However, in terms of strength, the Beast King couldn't even catch up. Many people couldn't imagine how Xianhou, who had only become a life and death king for a few years, already possessed the strength of a peak king, comparable to the likes of Dragon King, Evil King, and Prison King. Monstrous aptitude, peak king strength, and unfathomable methods made Xuanhou's prestige extremely formidable, enough to make all kings apprehensive. One could well imagine the pressure the three were under. Since Xianhou has come, the others will definitely come as well. Black Mountain Queen was used to being arrogant, but in front of a woman like Xianhou, she had to lower her head. The source of the spatial ripple was very far away, probably still at the entrance of the Forbidden Region. Ordinary life and death kings would need about the time to brew a cup of tea, while peak kings would need 1/3 of that time. After all, the space in the Forbidden Region was extremely stable, and the speed of traversing through space was much slower than the outside world. This was especially true in the graveyard, where arrays operated. Even life and death kings had to enter through the entrance. If they tried to force their way in, they would activate all the arrays, even those of 4 Extreme Emperor's graveyard. After putting away the 2 hunters, Black Mountain Queen didn't make things difficult for the Beast King and Night Ghost King. Sitting on the throne, she flew forward, the solid walls of the passage acting as if they didn't exist. In front of the entrance of 4 Extreme Emperor's graveyard, Yi Chen's face revealed a shocked expression. What he had obtained was neither a profound martial skill nor a secret art, but the foundation of space profound, which was even more precious than profound martial skills and secret arts. Emperor 4 Extreme's attainment in the profound of space is definitely at the great perfection level. It has already reached the point where there is no room for improvement. Just one more step and it would be the heavenly Tao laws. The profound of space that he concluded will make it easier for me to comprehend it. In order to form the foundation of a certain profundity, one had to reach perfection in that profundity. Otherwise, there would be mistakes and misunderstandings in the foundation of the profundity. Taking a step back, if one's profundity had not reached perfection, it would be impossible to form the foundation of a profundity because even he himself did not fully understand it. Emperor 4 Extremes is indeed a peerless genius. Space Profound is one of the most powerful profounds. Once completed, the Space Profound martial skill created will be extremely powerful. At the very least, it will be a top-rank one. With this Space Profound as the foundation, my Space Profound will be able to reach the minor realm in a short period of time. Right now, Yi Chen's Space Profound realm had stopped at 28%, not far from minor completion. However, there were 3 most difficult stages in the Profound realm: minor completion, major completion, and complete completion. According to Yi Chen's original estimation, it would take him at least half a year to reach minor completion. I wonder what the other 3 have obtained? Yi Chen turned his head to look at Dan Tai Mingyue and the other 2. The 3's expressions were strange. Jiang Tian seemed to have obtained something good, tightly clenching his fists as a sharp light flickered in his eyes. Xia Hozuan was in high spirits, emitting an ambitious aura. As for Dan Tai Mingyue, she turned her head to look at Yi Qin and faintly smiled. The three of them have obtained quite a lot. Right? Everyone has a key. It's impossible for me to be the only one who obtained the greatest benefit. According to the ranking of keys, Dan Tai Mingyue's harvest is also better than mine. However, this has nothing to do with me. Who cares what others have obtained? As long as my harvest is satisfactory, it's fine. The foundation of space profound was extremely precious. After reaching the life and death realm, regardless of whether one was willing or not, one would need to understand some space profound. After all, everyone lived in a space. Who killed my Gu family's half-step king? Bang! The space in the center of the four extremities square shattered like a mirror, and a terrifying aura of destruction leaked out from the shattered space, causing the airflow in the entire square to become abnormally violent. At the same time, a yellow-robed elder walked out, his eyes filled with killing intent. Destruction King. The Gu family's Destruction King is here. Everyone was shocked. The Gu family had two life and death kings, East King and Destruction King. The yellow-robed old man was precisely the Destruction King. The Destruction King had not come for Iron Hand King's revenge. Of course, if the opponent's background was too weak, then it would be a different story. He had come for the bronze armor, which was a pseudo-extreme grade artifact that couldn't be bought even with spirit stones. How could the Gu family let it fall into the hands of others? 4 ordinary life and death kings, a pseudo-extreme grade artifact was equivalent to an extreme grade artifact. Only an ancient family like the Gu family, which had once produced the East King, could have an extra pseudo-extreme grade artifact for a half-step king to wear. However, this didn't mean that the Gu family didn't care about pseudo-extreme grade artifacts. On the contrary, they cared a lot about pseudo-extreme grade artifacts. When the Destruction King appeared, many other life and death kings arrived as well. Among them, there were also half-step kings who had died miserably in the Forbidden Area. However, they didn't act like the Destruction King, oppressing the enemy with their strength. The main reason was that the half-step kings they dispatched didn't have pseudo-extreme grade artifacts. Moreover, which half-step king in the Forbidden Area didn't have a backer? If they acted ruthlessly, it would be the same as declaring war on the opponent's backer. The Destruction King is here. I wonder if East King is here as well. Perhaps he's here, but he's hiding in the dark, quietly observing the situation. Or perhaps he hasn't. All of the life and death kings who had arrived started to discuss secretly. The true Spirit Continent's king warriors were divided into 4 levels. The first level would be titled King Warriors, the second would be Top King Warriors, the third would be Top King Warriors, and the fourth would be Normal King Warriors. Although the Gu family was not one of the top 4 families, they were not that much weaker. Especially East King, who had already been a top king warrior since a long time ago. None of the top 4 families would dare to look down on the Gu family. Even the top warriors of the true Spirit Continent considered the Gu family as the 5th top family. Senior Destruction King, I know who killed the Iron Hand King. The plaza was quiet for a while before a voice was heard. The Destruction King looked toward the source of the voice. Meanwhile, most of the people also looked toward the source of the voice. Yi Qin frowned. He could tell that the speaker was Jiang Tian. "Who are you?" the Destruction King asked. Jiang Tian said proudly, "My name is Jiang Tian. My teacher is the North Sea Air Emperor." The disciple of the North Sea Air Emperor. All of the life and death king's expressions toward Jiang Tian changed. Jiang Tian was nothing to them, but his teacher, the Air Emperor, was extremely famous. He was a peerless king warrior who could be compared to Su King. However, he had always lived in the North Sea. Therefore, normal people on the true Spirit Continent did not know about the Air Emperor. "So, you are the disciple of the Air Emperor. Do you know who killed my Gu family's half-step king warriors?" The Destruction King's voice turned gentle. Jiang Tian looked at Yi Qin. "When the Iron Hand King died, I was there. My teacher's right-hand man, the Windstorm King, also died in his hands. And that person is him." Jiang Tian pointed his finger at Yi Qin. "It is him." Everyone's gaze landed on Yi Qin again. Late Sea of Soul Realm? Some of the life and death kings couldn't help but frown. A young man with Late Sea of Soul Realm cultivation base had killed 2 half-step king warriors. This kind of achievement was indeed shocking. It is Yichen. Yichen killed the Iron Hand King and the Windstorm King. So horrifying. The life and death kings could not recognize Yichen, but the other half-step king warriors and top master-level warriors did. They were all shocked. Yichen. Murong Qingqing was a bit nervous as she reached out her hand to hold Yichen's hand. Yichen let out a light breath and said to Murong Qingqing, "Don't worry, he will not do anything to me." Yichen, "Don't worry. He will only scare you a little." Qing Lu had also killed a couple of half-step king warriors, but she did not care at all. If there was competition, there would be death. Plus, it was just a Gu family, so what could they do? This guy is Yichen, right? Right next to Dan Tai Mingyue, a beautiful middle-aged lady appeared out of nowhere. Her qi was extremely powerful, seeming to be even more powerful than all the life and death kings present. Yes, great-grandma. Dan Tai Mingyue nodded. This middle-aged lady was none other than the life and death realm warrior of the Tantai family, the Moon Queen, who was also the current leader of the family. Before the mysterious queen appeared, the Moon Queen could be counted as the #1 human queen. Her power was unfathomable. Only with the Moon Queen could the Tantai family stand firmly as one of the top 4 families. Indeed an outstanding young man. The Moon Queen admired Yichen a lot. She was very clear about Yichen's achievements. She was amazed that there was a genius like Yichen in this world, who could even beat the Bright Moon and the Dugu family's brat. "So, you are Yichen? According to the rumors outside, you are so powerful. Seeing you today, I can see that you are indeed something. But, you killed my Gu family's half-step king warrior and took his bronze armor. Aren't you looking down on my Gu family too much?" The Destruction King froze a bit. After knowing Yichen's identity, he had already given up on the idea of killing him. After all, he did not want to take revenge for the Iron Hand King in the first place. He only wanted to take back the bronze armor and make him suffer a bit. The Iron Hand King wanted to kill me, so I killed him. The bronze armor was my trophy. Yichen's answer was very simple. The Iron Hand King wanted to kill him, so of course, he would not let him. As for the bronze armor, it was his trophy. Of course, it was not that there was no room for negotiation. You have guts. But, your words do not matter at all. How about this? You hand over the bronze armor and come back with me to the Gu family to apologize. I can let you go. The bronze armor is my trophy. If your Gu family wants it back, you have to at least give me some compensation. As for apologizing to the Gu family, I can't do that. I don't think I did anything wrong. I'm afraid you will not be able to bargain. The Destruction King did not have the intention to negotiate with Yichen at all. His eyes turned sharp. Destruction King, what do you want? Qing Lu walked out. Leader of the mysterious martial school, this has nothing to do with your school. The Destruction King was very scared of the Xianhou behind Qing Lu, so he was still polite to her. What do you mean it has nothing to do with my school? Just when Qing Lu was about to say something, a wave of space vibration appeared in the sky above the plaza. A luxurious space door appeared. It's her. The Moon Queen lifted up her head, her eyes shining brightly, causing the space in front of her to twist. Chapter 751. From the spatial gate, a white-robed woman walked out. As she walked out, the berserk chi flow on the plaza immediately calmed down, as if a mouse seeing a cat, unable to move. The white-robed woman's eyes were like stars, and her fine black hair cascaded down like a waterfall. Although her expression was calm and emotionless, she gave off an aura that disdained the whole world. Numerous life and death kings paled in comparison before her. Xianhou Yan Qingxian had arrived. Yichen sucked in a deep breath. Every time he saw Xianhou, he had a different feeling. The first time he saw Xianhou, Xianhou was like an ordinary woman feeding the fish by the pond. She didn't give off any special aura. Seeing Xianhou this time, Yichen recalled the shock he felt when he saw Xuanhou's portrait for the first time. The Xianhou in the portrait gave off the same feeling. a peerless beauty that looked down on the whole world. Destruction King, you want to bring Yi Chun to your Gu family to ask for forgiveness? Walking out of the spatial gate, Yi Chun looked at Destruction King. Destruction King's face twitched as he forced a smile. My Gu family's half-step king can't die in vain. Of course, my Gu family can't not give you and Dragon King face. I only want him to ask for forgiveness, and won't make things difficult for him. If not for Xianhou and Dragon King, Destruction King would have long since killed Yi Chun. Asking him to go back to Gu family to ask for forgiveness was already giving the two a lot of face. If he dies, it's because his skill is inferior. How about this? If you can block one finger of mine without getting injured, I won't get involved in Yi Chun's matter. How about it? Xianhou said indifferently. One finger? Destruction King hesitated. If it were any other life and death king, not to mention one finger, he would have no fear even if they fought for 300 rounds. However, Xianhou was too powerful. Even one finger was not something an ordinary life and death king could block. What, you don't dare? Then don't mention this matter again. Xianhou snorted. Fine, one finger it is. I don't believe that you can do anything to me with one finger. Destruction King also had his own pride. His cultivation base was 600 years, while Xuanhou's cultivation base was at most 1,000 years. Most importantly, he was wearing an extreme-grade armor, and the gloves on his hands were also pseudo-extreme-grade artifacts. He believed that if he risked his life, he could block a finger attack from Xianhou. Buzz. The surface of the Destruction King's body lit up with a reddish-yellow light. The light was like silk, interweaving into a cocoon, firmly protecting the Destruction King inside. At the same time, the Destruction King lowered his body and clenched his right fist. On his wrist, rings of Zhenyuan condensed into rings of light. These rings contained an extremely overbearing destruction profound, and each of them could flatten a small mountain range. At this moment, they were wrapped around the Destruction King's wrist. Come! The King of Destruction roared, his eyes blazing like torches. Looks like you're ready. Xianhou raised her right hand, and a transparent flame appeared on the tip of her right index finger. The moment the transparent flame appeared, the temperature of the plaza instantly dropped by 100 times. Layers of frost formed on the ground, and only the 4 extreme emperor's statue was not covered in frost. Ice Profound is actually not weaker than me. The Ice Pavilion Master also arrived. With his head full of white hair, his face was full of astonishment. Xuanhou's main Profound was not Ice Profound. In fact, it was rare to see Xianhou use Ice Profound in the past. Clearly, this Ice Profound was one of Xuanhou's auxiliary Profounds. Take this. As Xianhou pointed her finger at the Destruction King, the transparent flame turned into a beam of light and shot out at a speed that was hard to perceive under life and death realm. You're actually using Ice Profound to deal with me. The Destruction King was overjoyed. He fiercely punched out with his glove-covered right fist, and the Zhenyuan rings on his wrist were added to his fist energy. An ice flower bloomed in the air. Destruction King's punch, which was powerful enough to flatten a mountain range, was completely frozen by the ice flower. Its kinetic energy was instantly reduced to 0, and after the ice flower froze the punch, it suddenly burst into a transparent halo. The Destruction King's right arm was instantly frozen by the halo. What? The Destruction King's face was full of fright. He straightened his left hand like a blade and slashed at his right shoulder. Gotcha! His right shoulder and right arm were severed and fell to the ground. Not only did they not shatter, they even froze the plaza, forming a layer of ice that was several meters thick. How is this possible? Ice Profound has also reached greater completion. The Ice Pavilion Master sucked in a breath of cold air. His main Profound was Ice Profound, and he was currently at greater completion. However, Ice Profound was clearly Xuanhou's auxiliary Profounds, and yet, it had also reached greater completion. It should be known that the higher one's Profound was, the harder it was to comprehend. It was normal for one to not make any progress for hundreds of years. Moreover, every tiny bit of progress would greatly increase one's battle strength. What a blow! Even her auxiliary Profounds have reached greater completion. How are others supposed to live? The Moon Empress smiled bitterly. The greater completion of Ice Profound did not move her. What moved her was the fact that her opponent's Ice Profound had reached greater completion, which meant that his main Profound might have already reached completion. Of course, there were different levels of profound meaning completion. The difference between a profound meaning that was easy to comprehend and a profound meaning that was hard to comprehend was huge. When two profound meaning completion warriors walked together and had the same cultivation base, one of them could be killed by the other in a second. This was the difference. But no matter what, being able to comprehend a profound to completion was already extremely shocking. Worthy of being Xianhou. Even a casual move has such power. Suddenly, a ball of light appeared beside the Destruction King. The ball of light quickly expanded to a few meters in size, and a figure walked out of it. East King. Xianhou looked at the figure walking out of the light sphere. This was a middle-aged man dressed in a scholar's robe with a quaint appearance. He had a pair of extremely long and narrow eyebrows and a pair of phoenix eyes. He waved his sleeves, and the frost on the ground was pushed away in all directions. The ice melted and melted, clearing up an empty space. It's East King. I didn't expect East King to also come. Right, since the graveyard of 4 Extreme Emperor has appeared, with East King's strength, how could he not interfere? In the eyes of many Life and Death Kings, East King's weight was quite heavy. After all, there were only a few titled monarchs in True Spirit Continent and 4 Shallow Oceans, and the number of Peak Kings could be counted on 2 hands. East King could be considered a figure with considerable weight under Peak Kings. Are you alright? East King turned his head and looked at the one-armed Destruction King. I'm fine. Although Destruction King said so, he was inwardly alarmed. If he hadn't quickly cut off his right arm, that icy cold chi might have spread to his entire body. In that case, even if he didn't die, he would have suffered a near-death injury. Activating the undying body, the Destruction King's severed right arm quickly grew back. At the same time, the Destruction King's Jinyuan was also reduced by a small amount. This lost Jinyuan was not easy to recover, and it would take a long time if he were to rely on meditation and cultivation. East King, you also want to exchange a few moves with me? Xianhou flicked her sleeves and said. East King faintly smiled. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future. East King didn't have much confidence in exchanging moves with Xianhou, and he also felt that it was unnecessary. Exchanges between Life and Death Kings had to be meaningful. If there was no meaning, very few people would exchange moves. Yi Chen, you're pretty good. I'll keep that bronze armor with you for the time being. East King glanced at Yi Chen. This glance gave Yi Chen an endless illusion, as if his entire being had been abandoned by the world and sunk into chaos. East King's gaze, without a trace of emotion, directly fell into Yi Chen's sea of soul. Since Senior East King says so, Yi Chen will reluctantly accept. Yi Chen was startled inwardly. In that instant, the world disappeared, leaving only East King's glance. Life and Death Kings have already grasped a trace of the mysteries of the soul. Even if they both have a 5th step martial soul or sword soul, the might displayed by Life and Death Kings far surpasses those under Life and Death realm. This East King's martial should be at the peak of the 6th step. Xianhou coldly snorted and didn't say anything. Suddenly, she raised her head and looked into the depths of the void. There, an extremely powerful aura was flying over. This aura was already powerful enough, but the following aura was even more powerful. It was as if the entire void was pressing down. Before the aura even arrived, a majestic aura filled the heaven and earth. The two auras clashed in the void. Everyone present quieted down, not daring to speak. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.